Good morning, everyone. Hello. Lovely to see you. I will be referring, just to make you aware, around the room, but there are slides and the images that are on the screens here. We didn't want to be talking to the back of your head. If we had have said, will you please look around and look at this? So obviously, our attention, this is like a bit like being in the classroom. We wanted you to look at us and look at the front. But just in terms of a follow-up in terms of what Alan said, I'm going to give you a few, some information about Cooperation Ireland and what we do. Now, I don't know where you're sitting, if you can see that clearly, but Cooperation Ireland as an organisation, I'm just going to give you a bit of an overview. It was established by a gentleman called Brendan O'Regan in 1979. The organisation was primarily set up to support relationships on the island of Ireland, very much from an economic point of view. And Brendan wanted to sort of look at the idea that business, despite the fact that we had a border back in those days and we had the northern part and we had the southern part of Ireland, Northern Ireland and the Republic, his idea was very much that despite the border existing on the island of Ireland, his concept and idea was that people, as Alan has already mentioned a few times, this idea of building relationships, building social cohesion, getting people together, despite the differences and the backgrounds of people, that people can work together. But when it first began, it was very much to do with economics. After a period of time, that developed into youth work, community work, and bringing, for example, even in the early days when Cooperation Ireland was going from sort of the early 80s, we used to do a lot of work in terms of bringing school groups and youth groups from Belfast and other areas affected by the Troubles into the Republic. And that was just basically called cross-border exchanges, and we did a lot of that type of work. We also do a lot of other work involving, as Arnold mentioned there, both Alan and I worked with British Army families here for the first time, and that was a 3-year project. And I will talk in a wee bit more detail about that, because obviously the theme of this morning is about social cohesion, building relationships, and dealing with different types of groups. And I say dealing, it's not dealing as in engaging with them, it's working with them, building relationships, and encouraging them to feel part of society as a whole. So that idea of acceptance, tolerance, breaking down barriers is very much about what we try to do. I want to talk about some of the range of projects that we have been doing. You'll see on the screen, and we just selected a few. I just wanted to say a few words about some of them. We are the lead partner on this one, for example, the National Citizenship Service. There's other projects. We work with young people, and you'll just see from the screen there, there's a range of different types of work that we do. But in all that we do, we're working directly with people. We're working directly with communities. We provide, obviously, opportunities for people to meet. Those, for example, communities that may have never met before, communities that had a history with another community, didn't want to meet each other. And some of the guys in the room that took part, for example, on our tour on Saturday would have seen the fact that a lot of the communities here in Northern Ireland still live separately. So we have facilitated some of those exchanges to take place. And what we try to do is to overcome the differences. And it is, as I've said already, very much about building relationships. I want to say a few words, particularly, just make a reference again to the screen. The Family and Community Engagement Project that both Alan and I worked on was funded by the EU. And we developed our own approach in terms of, you have a distinctive group of people that didn't really benefit from the peace process here, and that was the British Army. Now, the attitudes towards the British Army, we didn't take that much to do with that. We considered them as a community that lived here, despite the fact that they lived on camp or on a base and they lived behind a wall. What we basically tried to do was to provide opportunities whereby British Army families and local families met, got together, began to understand each other, and that's what we did. We did develop a particular approach in doing that. It wasn't just a case of, there's the British Army families, and this is a local community, let's put them together. There was a particular process that we developed over a period of time. And both Alan and I worked on that. We developed that, it evolved, there were lessons learned. And what I'm saying in terms of this range of experience and the diversity of the work that we have been responsible for as an organisation, that one, because it worked with that particular community for the first time, and there was a lot of sensitivities involved and a number of challenges, we have now been able to sort of, if you want to say, transport that to other parts of the world. And as Arnold mentioned, we have a very good working relationship with our colleagues at Global Peace Foundation, and we are testing out this particular model of bringing people together in Jersey City in the US at the moment. And the challenge that we have there, it's not just two distinctive groups as it was here. You're talking 4 or 5 different ethnic groups that don't have the opportunity to integrate because of where they live. There are certain barriers in their lives. So what we have explored is the opportunity to bring those various groups together. And what we've tried to do is provide opportunities where they meet, they understand each other, but that is done in a particular way. And that's just what I wanted to say about that. The other thing about the FACE project is that we also, as part of our learning on the project, we had a very specific, what is referred to as action research, so that it was very much about learning by doing. So if there's things that went wrong, we changed it. So it was very much about reflection, and then we changed what we did by our own learning and practice. And that, effectively what that did was allow us to improve our work and what we were doing. In terms of results, and all of the work that we do, and as I say, as Peter mentioned this morning, I know some of this might be repetitive, there's a range of work. I just wanted to sort of illustrate, these are just snapshots of different projects that we've been involved in. And as I say, all of the work that we do is with youth and community groups. But we have that experience, we have that knowledge, and we have that sort of, I wouldn't say expertise, it's just that we've tried things out and we've learned from them. And at each stage, each project that we look after and we coordinate is slightly different. But the fundamental thing is about trying to build that social cohesion, bringing groups together, breaking down the barriers. I know we have some distance and some journey on which we are still on to do that here in Belfast, as many of you would have seen from, we still live in a very segregated society. And the challenge, again, Peter mentioned this morning, I hope we haven't settled for separateness, because we're still trying to break down those barriers. But just by some of the work that we've done, and a lot of this is evaluated, and a lot of the reports that we receive basically tell us what we have done, what we have achieved, have we met our outcomes. And I'm sure there are project people in the room that are familiar with all those lovely terms, objectives and outcomes and those type of things. But it is very much about breaking down those barriers, and youth and community work is primarily what we do. I also wanted to highlight some of the key things that we have been involved in as an organisation. And this would probably be considered as the sort of the, if you want to say, the high level type stuff. I know I've been talking a bit about youth and community based work, working with people, working with residence groups, working within schools. But I just wanted to sort of highlight the images that are on the screen here. The first one, if you can see that from where you're sitting, was the Queen's visit to Dublin, and Cooperation Ireland were involved, and I suppose the behind the scenes work of bringing the Queen on an official state visit to Dublin, where she spoke Irish in Dublin, and Michael D. Higgins was there. So it was quite a symbolic thing. Now I know there was a number of people says, well, she shouldn't be here, she's not welcome. But as an organisation, we felt that it was important. She is also our patron, and Michael D. Higgins is another of our patrons. But it's just to illustrate to you that that message of possibility and relationship building can actually take place at that level as well. So that was the Irish state and the British state meeting for the first time, and it was quite significant. The photograph in the middle that you will see we often refer to this in our office as that handshake. And I say that handshake because at that particular time, this is the one that did cause a bit of controversy. The guy that you see here on the left is Martin McGuinness, who's the Deputy First Minister at the moment. Arnold has met him. Arnold doesn't call him the Deputy First Minister, he calls him Marty. But he is, if you think about that image, it does tell you a wee bit more about the significance, because Martin McGuinness was a former commander of the IRA in Derry. This is obviously the Queen, the head of state. So you have the British head of state, who Martin didn't particularly like at one stage, one point in his life, meeting for the first time. So we were involved in that particular process. And in terms of the meeting, it went well. They exchanged words, it was pretty positive. But again, this sends out this message that it is possible, despite the fact where Martin McGuinness came from. And in the last one, it's the state visit, the reciprocal state visit, because obviously this is the sort of the transition from left to right across the screen here. This is Michael D. Higgins then visiting Windsor Castle. And I actually had the opportunity to go over with a few colleagues to be at this. And even for me, it was a bit difficult. I thought, well, no way am I meeting the Queen and all that stuff. I'm a boy from West Belfast. I didn't think I'd be meeting the Queen anytime soon in my life. But even that was quite significant. And just to sort of reassure Alan, I did wear a tie that day. So I had to. The only thing was now, obviously there's protocol involved when you meet royalty and you meet people like this. And Alan was like, did you bow? I says, no, I just said to the Queen, I'm sorry, Your Majesty, I have a sore back today, but that's a joke, by the way. Anyway, those type of things are possible, is what I'm saying. Despite the fact that we have differences and we come from different backgrounds and different perspectives, we do have this. So I'm going to just go through this quite quickly. What I did want to say a few words about is, and Alan has already mentioned it, our Chief Executive this morning, when he spoke to you, mentioned this. And I think this is a very significant sort of phase for ourselves as an organisation. We're very prepared and willing to do what we refer to as peace sharing, and we're happy to work with other parts. This is just an example of some of the things that we have been involved in, including, and I just wanted to mention it because I know John Kyle's in the room, we had a very successful workshop with a group of Koreans in the Skenos Centre in East Belfast. The challenge that we had was that everything had to be done through an interpreter and then fed back. But what I'm saying is that is possible. These exchanges and meetings can happen. The past, I don't know whether we'll have time to talk about this, but we are still struggling with this. We're still struggling with who did what and when and how, and it is a very, very difficult thing to deal with. I'll not say much more because I've been told that I have to shut up, so I have to apologise for that. But I just wanted to finish with this quotation by the author Cormac McCarthy, and it may link to some of the things that you have heard yesterday from Pumla from South Africa. And I just wanted to say this. Scars have the strange power to remind us that our past is real. So what I'm saying is we have to deal with it. So thank you very much everyone for listening to us. Thank you.